The cold night wind moved through the empty street like a quiet ghost. Streetlights flickered on and off, throwing broken shadows on the cracked footpath. A young girl named Mira sat under one of those weak lights, hugging her thin jacket around herself. She had been on this street since morning. Her stomach hurt. She had not eaten anything for nearly 2 days. Cars passed sometimes, fast and careless, their lights shining on her for a moment and then disappearing. No one stopped. No one asked if she was okay. People usually didn't look at girls living on the street. They walked past like she was invisible. Myra looked at the sky. It was cloudy, and the air smelled like rain was coming soon. She wished she had a warm place to sleep. Maybe tomorrow she could find a shelter again. Maybe they wouldn't push her out this time. Maybe she sighed, and everything changed. A strange humming sound filled the air. It wasn't like a car or a plane. It sounded soft, smooth, almost like a vibration. Myra lifted her head. The street light above her flickered twice and then glowed brighter than before. The air felt warm for a second. From the far end of the street, a tall figure walked slowly toward her. His steps were calm, steady, almost too quiet for someone his size. He wore simple dark clothes, but something about him was unusual. His face was gentle, but his eyes, they looked different. They had a soft blue shine, like light was reflecting from inside Dot. Mira felt her heart beat faster. When he came closer, he stopped a few feet away from her. "Are you cold?" he asked. His voice was calm. It sounded like he was still learning the language. The words were slow. Careful. Myra did not answer at first. She didn't trust people easily. Strangers could be dangerous on the streets. But he stood still, not moving, not threatening. Slowly, he reached into his bag and took out a small wrapped sandwich and a warm-looking blanket. "You need this," he said quietly. "Please take it." Myra stared at him. Why was he helping her? Nobody helped street girls. Everyone ignored them. "Who are you?" she whispered. He smiled a small, soft smile. "My name is Kale." The name sounded unusual, almost foreign. Myra took the sandwich with shaking hands. She ate quickly, almost forgetting to breathe. Hunger can make a person forget manners. Kale watched her silently, like he understood. After she finished, he placed the blanket around her shoulders. His hands were warm, too warm for a cold night. Before she could ask anything else, the sound of police sirens echoed down the road. 2 patrol cars turned into the street. When the lights flashed near Kale, something strange happened. Mira saw small glowing symbols appear across his neck and arms for a second, then vanish like they were never there. Her eyes widened. Kale looked at the police cars and then at her. His calm expression changed into something serious. "You must move," he said quickly. "Now." He gently pulled her toward a narrow alley. At first Myra resisted, but the fear in his eyes made her follow. The moment they stepped into the shadows, a beam of blue light shot down from the sky. It hit the ground exactly where Myra had been sitting minutes before. The force made the streetlight explode, showering sparks everywhere. Myra gasped and covered her head. What was that?" she cried. Kale looked up at the sky. For a second, Mira also saw a dark shape hidden behind the clouds, huge and silent, like a ship floating high above the city. But when she blinked, it was gone. Kale took a deep breath. "It is them," he said in a low voice. "They found me." Myra felt her chest tighten. "Found you? Who?" Kale looked at her with eyes full of fear and sadness. "The ones who want to erase this world. They followed me here. And now," his voice broke slightly, "now they will look for you too." Myra stepped back. Her mind raced. She didn't understand anything. First hunger, then a strange man, glowing symbols, blue lights from the sky. It felt unreal, like a dream. Or a nightmare. Why me? She whispered. Kale held out a small metallic cube. It was smooth, silver, and pulsed with a soft blue glow when Myra's fingers touched it. Because you saw me, he said. And because I chose to help you. Myra shook her head. She didn't want any trouble. She only wanted to survive another day. But something told her this man wasn't lying. Something told her this night was only the beginning of a dangerous story she never asked for. Kale looked at her again, gently this time. Myra, he said softly, I know this is hard, but please trust me. I helped you, and now you can help me. Myra stared at the cube. It felt warm in her hands, almost alive. Her life on the street had always been lonely. But this stranger showed her kindness, real kindness, something rare. Maybe this was her chance to finally matter. Myra took a small breath. If anyone is listening, she whispered toward the dark street, please subscribe to this channel, so you don't miss what happens next. Then she looked at Kale. Okay, she said. I'll help you. Kale nodded with relief. But in the sky above them, the clouds began to glow blue again. And the real danger was just beginning. Cold air rushed through the narrow alley as Myra held the glowing cube close to her chest. Her hands trembled, not just from fear, but from the strange warmth the cube gave. Kale walked slowly beside her, his steps quiet but tense, like he was listening to something Myra couldn't hear. They didn't stop until they reached the back door of an abandoned repair shop. The windows were broken, dust covered everything, and the smell of rust mixed with old oil filled the air. Kale pushed the door open with surprising strength and guided Myra inside. The moment they entered, he collapsed. Kale! Myra rushed toward him. His breathing was heavy. When he removed his hand from his side, Myra's eyes widened. His blood was glowing blue again, brighter this time, flowing like light instead of liquid. What is happening to you? Myra asked, panic rising in her voice. Kale leaned against a wall and closed his eyes for a second. The beam from the sky. It was a locator shot. It drains my energy. I need time to heal. Heal? Myra repeated. Are you human? Kale opened his glowing eyes and gave a weak smile. Not fully. Myra didn't know what to say. Her mind felt like a storm, questions crashing into one another. But she pushed everything aside and tore a piece of old cloth from the shop's shelves, pressing it gently against his wound. You helped me first, she said quietly. So I'll help you. Kale's breathing slowed a little, and he nodded gratefully. Thank you. For a few minutes, the only sound was Myra's shaky breathing. Then a sudden metallic buzzing came from outside. Myra froze. What is that? Kale's eyes widened. Drones. He reached for her wrist and whispered urgently, hide. Myra helped him into a dark corner behind a broken metal counter. She crouched beside him. The cube in her hand glowed brighter, reacting to the rising danger. A shadow passed by the window. Then another. The buzzing grew louder, sharper, like hungry insects searching for prey. Kale whispered, they scan for energy signatures. Especially mine. So they can find you anywhere? Myra whispered back, yes, unless... He looked at the cube in her hands. That device. It can hide us. Or reveal us. It depends on how you use it. Myra stared at the cube. How do I use it? Kale shook his head slowly. Only humans can unlock its full functions. I tried. It never opened for me. Before Myra could ask more, the buzzing stopped. Complete silence filled the air. Then a cold blue spotlight shot through the broken window. Myra gasped and covered the cube with both hands. The cube pulsed once, then spread a soft silver barrier around them like a thin fog. The light passed over them and did not detect anything. Kale whispered, shocked, "You activated a cloaking field." Effortlessly. Myra didn't know how she did it. She didn't even know what she did. But something inside her felt connected to the cube, like it understood her fear and responded automatically. After a long moment, the drones drifted away, and the buzzing faded. Myra let out a long breath she didn't know she was holding. Kale touched the ground weakly. "You saved us." Myra shook her head. "No, you saved me first. Now we're even." Kale smiled again, but it faded quickly when he looked at her hand. The cube was blinking fast now. "That is not good," he said with concern. "What does it mean?" "It means the cube is preparing to reveal something." Before Myra could react, the cube vibrated. Its surface split into tiny silver lines. Then a hologram burst into the air-bright blue light, filling the dark room. Myra's heart pounded as she watched a floating map appear in front of them. It slowly rotated on its axis. But this was not a city map. This was Earth. Red marks blinked on different spots: New York, London, Karachi, Tokyo, Cape Town, Seoul, Mexico City, and many more. "What are these?" Myra whispered. Kale's expression turned dark. "Targets." "Targets? For what?" Kale looked away, his jaw tight. "For destruction." Myra felt the ground under her knees turn cold. Why would anyone attack Earth? "What did we do?" Kale looked at her with deep sadness. "My people believe humans create too much suffering, too much war, too much cruelty. They think the planet must reset to protect the universe from future danger. But that's not fair." Myra cried. "There are good people too." Kale nodded slowly. "I know. I have seen kindness in humans. Kindness like yours." His words made Myra's chest tighten. She wasn't used to anyone saying something kind to her. Before she could answer, Kale's eyes widened again. He leaned forward suddenly, pain shooting through his body. A loud crash shook the building. The back door bent inward, metal twisting like paper. Something heavy walked outside. Footsteps slow, powerful. Myra grabbed Kale's arm. "Is it the drones?" "No," Kale whispered, shaking his head. "This is worse." The footsteps stopped directly outside the door. Then a deep, harsh voice echoed. "Kale, you cannot hide. The girl has the key. Bring her out." Myra's blood ran cold. "How? How does he know about me?" Kale closed his eyes and whispered, "Because he is the hunter. And once he smells a life, he never forgets it." The door groaned, ready to burst. Myra tightened her grip on the cube, her heartbeat loud in her ears. The hunter spoke again, louder. "Human girl, give me the cube, and I might let you live." Myra looked at Kale. Kale looked at the door, and the next second, everything exploded into chaos. The door of the repair shop shook so hard that dust fell from the ceiling. Myra held the glowing cube tightly against her chest. Kale pushed himself up with difficulty, using the wall for support. His face was pale, and the blue blood still glowed along his side. Another loud boom hit the metal door. "It won't hold," Kale whispered. Myra's voice trembled. "What does he want? Why is he after us?" Kale looked at her gently, sadly. "He is a bounty hunter from my world. He has only one job: capture me alive and kill anyone who helps me." Myra felt her knees weaken. She had only met Kale an hour ago, but now her life was suddenly filled with drones, alien hunters, and glowing cubes. This was not normal. This was not fair. She wanted to run, but her feet stayed frozen. The metal door bent inward, and a large hand with dark armor pushed through. The fingers were long, sharp like steel claws. Blue smoke leaked from the cracks. Cale grabbed Myra's wrist. "We must go. Now." He led her through the broken repair shop, moving fast despite his injury. Myra could hear the hunter tearing the door apart behind them. Every sound felt like a countdown. They reached a small back window. Cale pushed Myra through first. She landed hard on the ground outside, but there was no time to complain. Cale climbed out after her, just as the metal door behind them exploded completely. A loud, deep roar shook the night. Myra looked back and froze. The hunter stepped out of the building. He was huge, almost twice the size of Cale. His armor glowed with the same blue symbols Myra had seen briefly on Cale's skin. His face was partly covered by a mask, with 3 bright eyes scanning rapidly. Each step he took cracked the ground beneath his feet. Cale grabbed Myra's arm and pulled her toward the alley. "Move!" But the hunter was fast, terrifyingly fast. He jumped to the roof of the building with one leap, landing with a heavy thud. Then he dropped down in front of them, blocking the way. Myra gasped and stumbled backward. The hunter looked at her, his 3 eyes focusing like a camera lens. His voice was deep, metallic. "Human girl, give me the cube." Myra clutched it tighter. "No." The hunter tilted his head, analyzing her. "You are weak. Your life has no value. Why protect something that will destroy you?" Myra felt anger spark in her chest. She had heard words like these her whole life. Worthless, weak, nothing. But hearing it from this monster pushed something inside her to stand straighter. Cale stepped between them, shaking but defiant. "You will not touch her." The hunter laughed a cold, echoing sound. "You are injured. You cannot fight me." Cale breathed deeply. "Maybe not, but I will try." The hunter moved first. He charged. Cale grabbed Myra and pushed her to the side, just as the hunter's fist slammed into the ground where she had been standing. The shockwave threw Myra backward. She rolled across the ground, her elbows and knees scraping on gravel. Cale jumped toward the hunter, landing a glowing punch to his chest. The hunter slid back, but didn't fall. He laughed again. "You betray your own people for a human?" The hunter growled. "Pathetic." Cale spat blue blood. "She is more human than you have ever been." The hunter roared and swung a heavy strike. Cale dodged, but only barely. The blow hit the wall beside him and broke it cleanly. Dust filled the air. Myra crawled behind an old dumpster, clutching the cube. Her heart pounded as she watched them fight. She wanted to help, but she didn't know how. The cube pulsed faster in her hands. Like it was alive, like it was waiting. Cale stumbled. The hunter grabbed his throat and lifted him off the ground. Cale struggled desperately. Myra's breath caught in her chest. "No!" she cried. The hunter turned his head toward her. "Give me the cube, or he dies." Myra looked down at the glowing device. Her hands shook. If she surrendered it, Earth might fall. If she didn't, Cale would die. She couldn't lose him. He was the only person who had shown her kindness. Tears stung her eyes. The cube vibrated harder. Suddenly, it opened. Silver lines split across its surface, and a bright hologram burst out. So bright, the hunter stepped back in surprise. The light covered the entire alley. The hologram showed a planet Myra did not recognize. It had 3 bright moons and swirling blue clouds. But the cities on its surface were burning. Black smoke rose into space. Buildings collapsed. A giant ship hovered above them, firing beams of light. Cale's eyes widened in shock. "My world," he whispered weakly. "It can't be." The hologram showed fleeing civilians, destroyed homes, and blazing skies. The scene was horrifying. The hunter growled. "Your betrayal caused this, Cale. You stole the key, and your own world paid the price." Kale's body went still. Mira felt her heart twist in pain for him. The hunter dropped Kale to the ground and stepped toward Mira. Now, human girl, the key returns to us. But before he could reach her, the cube changed again. A second hologram appeared, this one showing Earth, with red flashing points everywhere. Myra's breath caught. These are the attack points. The hunter lunged for her dot. Mira raised the cube instinctively. A wave of silver energy exploded outward. The hunter was thrown back into the wall with a loud crash. Mira stared at her hands. Shocked, Kale looked up at her with weak but amazed eyes. You unlocked the core power of the cube. The hunter growled, slowly rising. This changes nothing. I will take it. Myra stood taller, fear still inside her, but courage burning now too. No, she said. You won't. Kale slowly pulled himself up beside her. We run. He whispered Dot. The hunter took one step forward. Myra clutched the cube Dot, and they ran into the night, toward their next danger. Cold night air whipped across Myra's face as she and Kale ran through the narrow alley. The glowing cube pulsed in her hand with every step, almost like it had a heartbeat of its own. Behind them, the hunter roared, his heavy footsteps shaking the ground. He's close. Myra gasped. Kale's breathing was rough, but his voice stayed steady. Not far now. Just keep moving. The alley opened into a wide street. Cars rushed past, but Myra and Kale blended into the shadows. The hunter leaped onto a rooftop behind them. His 3 eyes glowed like burning moons. Target located. His voice echoed across the buildings. Kale grabbed Myra's arm and pulled her into another side street. They sprinted past shuttered shops, trash bins, and old posters flapping in the wind. Myra's lungs burned, but fear pushed her forward. Suddenly a blue drone dropped from the sky and hovered in front of them, scanning with a bright beam. Mira froze. Kale pulled her behind him. Stay back. The drone fired a thin laser beam toward them. The cube reacted instantly. A silver shield burst in front of Mira, blocking the beam. Sparks scattered in the air. Kale stared at her. You used the shield again. Mira shook her head. I don't even know how I'm doing it. But there was no time to think. The hunter landed on the street behind them with a thunderous crash. The ground cracked. Myra screamed. Kale grabbed her hand. This way. They ran again, turning corner after corner, but the hunter always stayed near. His heavy footsteps followed like a dark storm that wouldn't stop. They reached a narrow staircase leading down to an underground passage. Kale pushed Mira ahead. Go. They rushed down the steps into darkness. The echo of their footsteps filled the old tunnel. Pipes ran along the ceiling, dripping water. The air was cold and smelled like damp stone. Suddenly, a distant explosion shook the passage. He's breaking through the street. Mira cried. Kale nodded grimly. He won't stop. Not until he gets the cube. Mira held the glowing object tighter. Why does he want it so much? Kale slowed slightly, but only for a moment. The cube holds the command codes for the reset. My people will use it to judge if a planet should be destroyed or spared. Myra felt her heart sink. And Earth is one of the planets? Kale nodded. Yes, and right now, Earth is marked for destruction. Myra stumbled. Why? Why destroy an entire world? Kale's voice was heavy with sadness. They believe humans are dangerous, violent, unpredictable. My people fear that humans will one day bring chaos across the universe. Myra stared at him. But that's not fair. Humans can be kind too. Kale looked at her gently. I know. You proved that. Before Mira could reply, a loud metallic echo rang through the tunnel. The hunter's voice boomed behind them. Run all you want. You cannot escape. Myra's heart almost stopped. Cale pulled her forward. We must reach the safe point. What safe point? She asked breathlessly. A place where humans already know about us. Mira gasped. Humans? They know? Cale nodded, but he didn't slow down. A secret group. They watch the sky. They study signals. They know Earth is in danger. Myra couldn't believe it. Humans already knew aliens existed? Then why was she the one running with the cube? Another drone swooped down into the tunnel. The hunter's roar echoed behind it. The drone sped toward them. Cale pushed Myra against the wall. Stay low. The drone fired again. Myra raised the cube without thinking. A silver energy wave exploded, destroying the drone completely. The sound echoed through the tunnel like thunder. Mira stared at her hands. Why does the cube listen to me? Cale answered softly. Because it chose you. Myra swallowed hard. She didn't want to be chosen. She just wanted to survive. But now everything was different. The tunnel opened into an old underground subway station, abandoned, dark, covered in dust and graffiti. But Myra noticed something strange. There was a metal door built into the wall that looked new, clean, polished and glowing with faint lights. Cale exhaled in relief. We made it. He walked toward the door and touched a faint symbol on its surface. The symbol lit up. A voice came from inside. Identity scan? Cale, rank 2. Access granted. The door slid open silently. Myra's eyes widened. Inside the room, screens covered the walls. Maps, satellite images, alien symbols, and glowing red points filled the displays. Several humans wearing dark uniforms turned toward them. They weren't shocked. They weren't afraid. One of them, a woman with sharp eyes, stepped forward. You brought the girl, she said to Cale. Good. Myra stepped back. You were expecting me? The woman nodded. Yes, we've been monitoring alien activity for years. The cube only answers to a pure human signal. It shows you. That makes you part of this now. Mira felt dizzy. Before she could react, the entire facility shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lights flickered. The hunter's voice roared outside the door. Open the door, now. The woman snapped to her team. Prepare defenses. He cannot get the girl. Myra clutched the cube tightly. Cale stood beside her, ready to fight despite his injuries. The metal door trembled under a powerful impact, and Myra realized. This was not the end of the hunt. This was only the beginning of a much bigger war. Night settled over the small town like a heavy blanket as Sarah walked home with the old notebook clutched tightly in her hand. The pages inside felt warm, almost alive, as if they were hiding something that wanted to be discovered. The stranger's words from the motel echoed in her mind. Read it only when you're ready. But was anyone ever ready for something like this? When she finally reached her room, she locked the door, turned on the dim lamp, and placed the notebook gently on the table. For a long moment she stood still, staring at it, breathing slowly. Part of her was excited. A bigger part was scared. Still, she had to know. Sarah carefully opened the notebook. The first page was written in fast, messy handwriting, like someone had written it quickly. If you are reading this, then you saw the man I once tried to save. She frowned. Tried to save? Save from what? She turned the next page. The notebook spoke about a place not on Earth, a place called Nereth Prime, a world far away, hidden from humans. The stranger was not just traveling. He was running. Sarah's eyes widened as she kept reading. The words felt unreal. They will follow him, the notebook warned. They do not stop. They do not forgive. And they do not forget. Who were they? The notebook explained more. The stranger belonged to a peaceful race called the Valorians, who could heal, understand emotions, and carry memories. But the group hunting him, the Krell Syndicate, were a dangerous faction that wanted Valorian power for themselves. They captured and used Valorians to experiment with their abilities. The notebook ended with a final line. If he asks for your help, do not refuse. You may become the key to his survival, and perhaps to yours. Sarah closed the notebook slowly. Her heart pounded loudly. She had lived her life alone, ignored, invisible to the world. Now suddenly she was connected to something bigger, something she never imagined. A soft knock on her door made her jump. Sarah. It's me, the stranger said from outside. She hesitated only a second before unlocking the door. He stepped inside, but he looked different, tired, shaking, his silver blue eyes duller than before. Something was wrong. You read the notebook, he said quietly. Yes, she whispered. Is it all true? He nodded. Sarah swallowed hard. Are they coming? Yes, he said, voice low. They are already close. Her hand trembled. But why here? I'm just no one. You are not no one, he said firmly. You were the only one brave enough to stop and help a stranger lying alone in the street. Do you think that means nothing? Sarah looked away, feeling heat in her eyes. No one had ever spoken about her like that. I didn't save you, she said softly. You did more than you think, he replied. Suddenly the lights flickered. The stranger stiffened. They are scanning the area, he whispered. Sarah's breath caught. A loud humming sound came from outside, like a machine searching. A shadow passed across the window, long, thin, unnatural. Sarah whispered, What do we do? The stranger placed his hand gently on her arm. I need you to trust me. Do you? Sarah nodded without thinking. She didn't understand why, but she did trust him. He closed his eyes. A faint blue glow spread from his hand into her skin. It was warm, calming, like a wave of safety washing over her. What are you doing? She whispered. Protecting you, he said quietly. If they find us, they will take me, and anyone who helped me. Sarah felt her chest tighten. So you came to warn me? Yes, and to ask for your help. He looked into her eyes. They sense fear. They read energy. But with your presence, I can hide. She blinked. Me? How? Because your heart is stronger than you know, he said. Your kindness changed my energy. They can't track me clearly when I'm near you. Sarah felt something shift inside her, fear turning into courage. A loud metallic clicking echoed from outside. The shadow passed the window again, closer this time. Stay quiet, he whispered. They moved to the corner of the room, sitting on the floor with the lights off. Sarah could hear her own heartbeat, fast and powerful. Outside, something scanned the building again, a cold, strange energy that made her skin crawl. Suddenly the stranger leaned close. If they enter, run, he said softly. No, she whispered back. I won't leave you. He stared at her, surprised. You should, he said. But I won't, she replied, voice steady. Not after everything you told me. Outside, the sound grew louder, closer, searching. The stranger grabbed her hand. His voice was almost a breath. Then we faced them together. Sarah nodded. The window shook as something landed outside. The window rattled again. Dust fell from the ceiling. Sarah held her breath as a sharp metallic clicking echoed from outside the motel room. Something was moving, slow, careful, hunting. The stranger didn't move. His hand still held Sarah's tightly. His eyes faintly glowed in the dark, watching the window without blinking. Sarah whispered, Is that them? Yes, he said in a low voice. A Krell scout drone. The sound continued, click, click, like long metal legs crawling across the wall. Sarah's heartbeat thudded in her chest. She wished she could disappear. The stranger squeezed her hand gently. Stay calm. If your fear rises too much, they will sense us. I'm trying, she whispered shakily. The shadow outside paused right by the window. A thin red beam scanned through the glass. Sarah froze. The red line moved across the room, coming closer to where they sat hiding. The stranger leaned close and whispered, "Look at me." Sarah turned to him. "Focus on my voice," he said. "Think of anything warm, anything peaceful." Sarah closed her eyes. She tried to imagine something: sunlight, warm tea, soft blankets. But fear kept breaking through. Her breath shook. "It's okay," he whispered, placing his hand lightly on her face. A soft blue pulse of warmth flowed into her. Her heartbeat slowed just enough. The red beam shifted away, sliding across the wall. The clicking moved again. It worked. The drone crawled across the window frame, making sharp tapping sounds. After a long, tense moment, its shadow slowly moved away. Sarah let out a quiet breath, but the stranger didn't relax. "That was only one," he whispered. Sarah blinked. "There are more?" He nodded. "Drones come first. Then the hunters follow." Sarah's throat tightened. "We need to leave." "We will," he said. "But we must move when their scanners pause. They search in cycles." "How do you know?" "Because I used to hide from them every day," he said quietly. Pain flickering in his eyes, Sarah felt that heavy truth press down on her heart. Quick escape. The humming sound outside changed lower now. More distant. "That's the pause," the stranger whispered. "We move now." He stood quickly, pulling Sarah with him. They moved quietly toward the door. Sarah grabbed the notebook on instinct. Something told her it would be important later. The stranger opened the door a crack and peeked outside. The parking lot was dark, except for a flickering streetlight. A strange, spider-like machine crawled across a distant rooftop. Two more hovered in the air, turning slowly like vultures. He looked back at Sarah. "Stay close behind me." "Don't look up." Sarah nodded, her legs trembling. They slipped outside. The cold night air hit her face. Crickets were silent, too silent. The world felt wrong. The stranger led her along the back of the building, staying in the shadows. Sarah tried not to breathe too loudly. Every sound felt dangerous. Suddenly, a clicking sound echoed behind them. Close. Very close. The stranger grabbed Sarah and pulled her behind a dumpster just as a drone crawled across the wall above them. Its red scanner beam swept across the ground, just inches from her feet. Sarah held her breath until her chest hurt. Finally, the beam moved away. The stranger whispered, "You're doing good." She nodded, her body shaking. The first hunter arrives. They reach the end of the motel, where a small alley opened onto the street. The stranger stopped suddenly. A dark figure stood at the far end. Tall, thin, wearing armor that looked like metal bones. Its eyes glowed faint red under a mask. The air around it felt colder. Sarah's blood ran cold. "Is that?" "Yes," the stranger whispered. "A Krell hunter." The hunter tilted its head, like it heard something. Its glowing eyes scanned the alley. Sarah felt fear rise in her chest. Too fast, too sharp. The stranger immediately held her hand. "Stay with me, breathe." But the fear wasn't stopping this time. The hunter stepped forward. The stranger made a quick decision. He pulled Sarah back into the shadows and whispered urgently, "When I tell you to run, you run and don't stop." "No," Sarah whispered fiercely. "I'm not leaving you." "You must," he said. His voice was gentle but firm. "I can slow him down. You can get away. But then they'll take you. Better me than both of us," he said softly. Sarah shook her head. "I won't let you." The hunter suddenly turned sharply toward their hiding place. The stranger's eyes widened. He sensed us run. He pushed Sarah away from him and charged out of the shadows. The hunter moved with terrifying speed. A blast of dark energy shot from its weapon, hitting the wall where Sarah had stood a moment ago. Sparks exploded. "No!" Sarah screamed. The stranger dodged another blast, rolling behind a trash bin. He shouted, "Sarah, go!" Tears blurred her vision. She turned and ran down the opposite side of the alley as fast as she could. Her feet slapped the pavement. Her breath came out in sharp gasps. Behind her, she heard the sound of battle metal hitting concrete, blasts of energy. The stranger shouting in pain. "Please be okay," she whispered as she ran. Another explosion shook the ground. She turned the corner and skidded to a stop. 2 more hunters stood at the end of the street. Their eyes glowed red. Sarah froze. She was trapped. Sarah stood frozen in the middle of the dark street as the 2 Krell hunters stepped toward her. Their armor glowed faint red, reflecting on the wet asphalt like drops of fire. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't think. Behind her, she heard the stranger cry out as he struggled with the first hunter. She was surrounded. "Do not run," one of the hunters said in a cold, metallic voice. Another stepped closer. "You cannot escape." Sarah's legs shook. For a heartbeat, she almost gave up. But then she remembered the stranger's voice. "Your heart is stronger than you know." A small flame lit inside her chest. She tightened her fists. "I'm not afraid of you." The hunter stopped for a moment, surprised. Humans usually cried, begged, or collapsed. But Sarah, she stood like a wall. One of them raised a weapon. A red beam charged, but before it fired, a bright blue light exploded from the alley behind Sarah. The stranger. He stumbled into the street, badly hurt, but his eyes glowed brighter than ever. Blue light spread from his hands like fire. "Stay away from her," he shouted. The hunters turned toward him. Sarah felt her heart lurch. He looked so tired, so wounded. His clothes were torn, his skin bruised. But he still stood between her and danger. "You should have run," the stranger said to her without looking away from the hunters. "I'm not leaving you," Sarah whispered. For a moment, despite the danger, he smiled. The final attack, the first hunter raised a blade-like weapon. The stranger responded by summoning a glowing shield of blue light. The blade hit the shield, sending sparks everywhere. The sound echoed through the empty street like thunder. Sarah stepped back, gripping the notebook tightly. She didn't know what she could do, but she had to help somehow. The second hunter moved toward her again. Target: human female, it said in a cold tone. "She is the reason you are hidden," another hissed. "She will be taken." "No," the stranger shouted. He tried to run toward her, but the first hunter blocked him. Sarah's breath caught, her hands trembled, and her fingers slipped. Across the cover of the notebook, the last page. A sentence she remembered. "A Valorian's power grows stronger when a heart beside them is brave." Her heart. Her courage. She took a breath, stepped forward, and shouted, "Hey, leave him alone." The hunters turned sharply toward her. The stranger gasped fear, crossing his face. But then something incredible happened. The blue light around the stranger suddenly grew brighter, stronger, more powerful. It burst from him like rising fire. He stared at Sarah with wide eyes. "Sarah, what are you doing?" "Helping you," she said, voice shaking but strong. "Like you helped me." A wave of energy surged from the stranger. The hunters stumbled back. A light they couldn't track. The hunters tried to stabilize their scanners. Her emotional signal is interfering. Unstable energy reading. She is breaking our tracking. Sarah didn't understand what was happening, but she stood firm. Her fear melted away. replaced by something stronger, protective, fierce. The stranger lifted his hands. Blue light spiraled outward like a shield. The hunters fired red blasts, but the light absorbed them. "You cannot win," one hunter hissed. The stranger took a slow step forward. "I am not alone." He pressed both hands to the ground. A shockwave of blue energy ripped across the street like a tidal wave. The hunters were thrown back, crashing into the walls, their armor sparking and cracking. Sarah shielded her eyes from the bright blast. When she opened them, the hunters were on their knees, their armor flickering. The stranger swayed on his feet, exhausted. Blue light dimmed around him like a fading flame. Sarah rushed to him. "Are you okay?" He nodded weakly. "I will be. But we must finish this." The hunters struggled to rise again, but their scanners glitched. Sparks shooting out, the stranger lifted his hand one last time, a thin beam of soft blue. Energy shot forward, not violent, not deadly, but powerful. Enough. The hunters collapsed as their systems finally shut down. The street fell silent. It was over. A new path. The stranger fell to his knees. Sarah caught him before he could fall completely. "You saved me," he whispered. "No," Sarah said, her eyes shining. "We saved each other." He looked at her with a soft, warm smile. "Your courage gave me strength. A Valorian's power grows with connection, and your heart burned brighter than any fear." Sarah helped him sit. The cold night air felt lighter now, like the danger had finally passed. "What happens now?" she asked softly. He looked up at the stars. "More hunters will come, but not tonight. You gave me enough strength to hide again, to heal." Sarah's heart sank. "So you're leaving?" "For a little while," he said gently. "I must protect you from afar until the danger is gone." She blinked slowly. "Will I see you again?" He reached out and gently squeezed her hand. "You will. You changed my fate, Sarah, and I will never forget you." Tears filled her eyes, not from fear this time, but from something deeper. He stood slowly. A faint blue glow wrapped around him. "Stay safe," he said, "and remember, your kindness changed everything." The light blossomed around him, and he vanished into the night sky like a falling star reversing direction. Sarah looked up for a long time, holding the notebook close to her chest. The street was quiet again. She whispered into the night, "Come back soon." And somewhere beyond the stars, he heard her.